Well, hello there. Thank you for joining me for the latest edition of Telile 24/7. I'm your host, Adam Cook, and on this week's show, we've got a focus on highways and healthcare. Coming up, I'll have an interview with one of the chief representatives of the Cape Breton South Recruiting for Health Committee to talk about their work in bringing new doctors to our area. And we'll also talk a little bit about how doctors missing from our region can have an impact right across the board in areas that you might not even suspect. But we begin with the first part of a two-part interview with Nova Scotia's Minister of Transportation and Active Transit, Lloyd Hines. It's been a busy time for the minister. Not only has his department undergone an overhaul, but he's also unveiling two big highway repair and upgrade projects for our neck of the woods. We begin by focusing on the forthcoming replacement of the Port Hastings Rotary, and we begin that conversation with Nova Scotia's Minister of Transportation and Active Transit, Lloyd Hines, right now. Your department recently took a bit of a shift. It's no longer Transportation and Infrastructure Renewal. It's now Transportation and Active Transit. Can you tell us a little bit, just for those trying to get used to this change, what exactly has changed about your job and your department, and why this actually happened when the new Premier Ian Rankin swore you into your position just a week and a half ago?
Absolutely, Adam. First of all, I feel very privileged and blessed to be in this role, and particularly continuing on as Minister of Transportation. Essentially, previously, the volume of business that was infrastructure renewal has grown and grown and grown with the rebuild of the health system in particular across the province, both in from one end to the other, really, but certainly mostly in industrial Cape Breton, North Sydney, Waterford, Glace Bay, and at the Cape Breton Regional Hospital. And in Halifax in particular, we redid the Dartmouth General significantly to the tune of $200 million. And we are embarking on the complete rebuild of the Halifax Infirmary, which is the kernel or a nucleus of the QE2 renewal project that we're involved with. So these are the biggest public spend projects in the history of Nova Scotia, and therefore require a very tight oversight. In addition, it was felt that housing was emerging as a significant area for us to get a good handle on, and so that was combined with the infrastructure, and a new ministry was created to provide a specific focus on those two particular situations. What that means for us is that probably in the vicinity, we have 2,250 people in the department, and this change means that probably between 80 and 100 people will be moving out to the infrastructure renewal department. We've grown close to these people. We hate to lose them because we worked very closely together over the last 4 years. But we have a lot of confidence in the great work that they have done and will continue to do for Nova Scotians as we move those projects forward. In the same spirit, we're going to be receiving some people from who are involved in the active transit section, who are currently in other departments of government, with a piece of active transit here, and a piece there, and a piece there. So we're going to consolidate those pieces into our department. There won't be any physical moves right away, but over time we will consolidate those office spaces into our own TAT department, and we'll move forward there. Essentially, what we're doing is consolidating the transit pieces that are horizontal in Nova Scotia into the Department of Transportation.
You're likely familiar with a couple of the active transit areas that are close to your riding, looking at Strait area transit in Port Hawkesbury, Inverness, and Richmond area, and Antigonish with an Antigonish community transit operation as well too. And in terms of active transportation, Port Hawkesbury has been working hard, developed an active transportation trail from the NSCC Strait area campus right up to the Civic Center. So are you pleased to be taking on projects like that as you continue in your role as Transportation Minister?
Well, I have to say that I am, and first of all, kudos to the town of Port Hawkesbury in particular for pushing on that active transit program, and we were very pleased to be a part of that over the last few years. And I think it's a huge step forward to connect various aspects of the communities together. The coming from a rural riding, it's difficult to overemphasize the gap that we have in community transportation in the rural areas. People in rural areas have to travel to central cores for services, whether it could be something as simple as groceries. It obviously is medications for pharmacies and also for medical appointments in particular. So it's quite a barrier in the rural areas when there isn't a transportation system available, which there really isn't for the most part. So I'm anxious to get involved with these organizations who have been on the forefront, working face of trying to overcome this significant barrier and see if we can continue the good work that they have been doing.
Well, we look forward to seeing how that progresses. And speaking of things that the town of Port Hawkesbury has been pushing for a couple of years, let's start with one of the two major projects that we'd like you to speak to us about here on Telile 24/7 today, that being an overhaul for the Port Hastings Rotary. It has been put on the province's 5-year highway plan to have the Rotary replaced by a roundabout, something we've seen quite a bit in Nova Scotia over the last 5 to 10 years. Can you give me a sense about the thinking behind going the roundabout route and how you feel that's going to impact traffic flow in that area as we go forward?
Yes, so I'll be happy to tell you what we see in the situation after significant study of the circumstance there. Essentially, when we look back, construction of the causeway, which opened in 1955, it was a great breakthrough. In terms of the way that people felt at the time, or the atmosphere that people found themselves in. I can just imagine if we tried to build that causeway in 2021, how interesting it would be. However, it did solve a major problem of the day and provided the link that we have there currently. Now, the issue that remained and was part of the deal was to maintain marine passage through the causeway. It's very, very important, obviously, through that period of time. And up to 1955 was unfettered. There was no issue. So the solution to that at that time was the swing bridge and the locks that are there. And it created that access. But when doing that, it also created a bottleneck. There is a huge pile of traffic into Cape Breton, obviously, and that's where it all comes through in that location at the causeway and across that bridge. At the same time, we have to accommodate marine traffic that was there first, as it were, and needs to get through the strait rather than obviously going around the entirety of the island. So there's always compromise, and that was the compromise that they come up with at that time in 1955. Today, with the increase in traffic, that bridge opening creates a huge impediment to the free flow of traffic through the causeway. And, with increasing traffic, we get more significant backup and longer waits for people. And, in the society we're in today, everybody wants everything immediately. And, having to wait half an hour for a bridge open and close is it's a long time in people's lives. And there are other considerations there too, Adam, such as safety and security and emergency vehicle access and all of those kinds of things, which come into play. So we need to tackle that. And we are doing that in this process that we have. Yeah, you're right. Roundabouts are sort of a relatively recent innovation in the last 10, 15 years. We're seeing a lot of them, and they're an old style solution, which in Europe and has been used extensively for many, many years. And they do work. I know they annoy some people because people are not used to them and they're a little edgy about going through them, but they are a great traffic handling solution. So looking at the causeway and the way that has evolved, there hasn't been a significant rethink of the traffic patterns there for some length of time. So that's what we have done with this particular plan. We're looking at it, putting it's almost a hybrid roundabout in there. There's a full-fledged roundabout, but it's also being accompanied by some other changes in traffic flow there that will help enable people get from the causeway to Route 19 or the causeway to the 105 or the causeway to the number 4 expediently.
Lloyd, is there anything specific you can tell us about how the traffic flow would be altered to deal with these problems?
It's fairly complex, and I don't want to preempt the public meetings that we have planned shortly in the spring here for the area, where people will have an opportunity to seek the input. But essentially what we're doing is providing some traffic flow opportunities to enhance the ability to get from either of those locations that I've talked about. Part of that will be the rotary, and part of it is rerouting some of the single lanes that are in there now. The biggest factor or an important factor that we're looking at is providing what we refer to in the industry as storage, which is a lane to where cars can park while they're waiting for the bridge. So what we're doing in this instance, in addition to the rotary, which will be to the left on your left when you're coming across the causeway, it'll be towards Route 19. We're also widening the westbound lanes from the bridge back to the rotary to allow the storage of vehicles as they're waiting to get across the bridge. So instead of being extended back in a long line that goes back into the rotary and backs up on number 4, we're hopeful that the additional storage, which will be 2 vehicles wide, will keep it out of the rotary and while the bridge is in open, and cut down on the wait time and the blocking of the ability to get from number 4 to 19 or number 4 to the 105 also in that circumstance. So our engineers have tried to solve the problem as best we can, and we'll unveil that plan to the public in the next month or two.
So you've mentioned that there will be public meetings to help
Yes.
local residents get a sense on what exactly is coming. Is there a projected timeline for the start of construction on this roundabout, Lloyd? What are we looking at in terms of when the construction would start and when it's hoped to finish?
Yeah, we're moving quickly as we can here in this situation. We're hoping to be able to go to tender in late summer. And so it'll be about a year's worth of work to get it done. So we're hoping to get it moving this year. It's in the budget, ready to go. And it looks like we're probably in the plus or minus $5 million range for this particular phase, which hopefully will relieve a lot of the problem for us. But down the road farther, I think we have to take a look at the entirety of the bridge itself. As I mentioned, the bridge is 70 plus years old. And it's as time goes on, maintenance becomes a major consideration there. So probably in a phase 2 that might be out 10, 15 years, you will see a bridge replacement and a what we would call a flyover from the causeway to the 105 as a discrete route to get through there. This solution doesn't envisage that at this point in time, though it does utilize the rotary to get traffic back into the 105 in a more direct manner than what it is currently.
We'll have more of our interview with Lloyd Hines later on in the program, focusing on highway twinning in Pictou and Antigonish counties. But right now, let's shift the focus to doctor recruitment. It's been a busy time in that regard, with a new doctor coming to Port Hawkesbury to start his practice. But by the same token, the absence of a doctor at a Richmond County healthcare facility has impacted that facility's ability to carry out various aspects of its business regarding healthcare for residents across the county and beyond. The issue came up at Richmond Municipal Council's recent meeting of its Committee of the Whole. So let's go there right now to tell you about how an absence of a doctor at the Kingston Medical Centre in Lordways is making an impact all the way across the county and landing at the council table in Arishat. The discussion at last week's Committee of the Whole meeting began with a few words from District 5 Councillor Brent Sampson, whose constituency includes the Kingston Health Clinic. Sampson told the Committee of the Whole meeting that the health centre's mandate extends far beyond seeing patients for medical reasons.
It's a lot more than simply a clinic, let's say. It is the community health centre. They've been doing a lot of work in administering several grants over the last number of years. There's several grants that are being administered at the moment. If they were to end up in a position where it had to shut down for some point in time, not only would be, looking at the half a dozen people or so employed there, but also it would kind of may put into jeopardy some of the administration of these grants that are being handled by them right now. So it's hard to understate the importance of, this health center to the county as a whole. We've had Michelle in here from the Senior Safety Coordinator. That's, much of what she does is administered through there. There's several, the Cape Breton South Recruiting for Health group is a partnership somewhat administered through that.
To help drive these points home, Sampson got Council's permission to invite the board chair for the Dr. Kingston Memorial Health Clinic, Juanita Mumberket, to approach the council table in Arishat.
We were, I would think, instrumental in getting the Cape Breton South Recruiting for Health organization started and working all of the angles that organization has been working towards. We have also been, we reached out to Mike Kellaway, early in the game to see what could happen there. We've reached out a few times to NSHA and the Department of Health and Wellness to look for innovative solutions there. We're still working with them to try to find a different solution for our organization. We're also a member of the Nova Scotia Association of Community Health Centres, and there are some interesting funding models for a couple of the other community health centers in the province. So we're trying to discuss that with the Nova Scotia Health Authority. We also do have a few infrequent renters who come in to do some other types of health services from our building, and we always try to offer that because we do have a little bit of space that we could offer. We have been recently getting some requests about renting space in the building, so we have those requests and we're providing information back and forth to some of these other groups.
Mumberket also took the opportunity to remind Richmond councillors how difficult the Kingston Health Centre situation has been since losing a physician just about a year ago.
So each physician that we have currently, our current rate that we charge them is $3,000 a month.
Okay.
So that revenue that we have lost is just that much. There's a much larger budget that we have to operate the building, to have the staff, to have the all the maintenance of the building, etc. So that's just $3,000 for that one physician that we're missing. And we have been missing since March, maybe last year. She left mid-March.
Yeah.
Around now, I guess.
A podiatrist there every second Monday, and currently they have provided rental information to continuing care and circles of support and change, waiting to hear from the parties in that case. But there has been other efforts made besides simply recruiting a physician, to get rental revenue as well.
The reach of your non-clinical programming is over 1,700 people across all the county. Just in this past year.
Correct, yeah.
Since you started doing grants, it's over 30 grants, 6 privately funded projects, resulting in about $1.1 million in investment in the last 4 years.
It's also a community building. That was a lot of fundraising. It brought the community together when they built that building. So it's very personal, I think, to the local community, while it still supports the broader community.
It's incumbent on us to try and figure out some kind of a way to move forward on this. I know they're not looking for this to be long-term. They've been working with the province to try and come up with some creative solutions here moving forward. It's just that without having a second physician there for about a year or so now, it's created a financial shortfall that now it's getting to a point where something has to be done.
With some prompting from Councillor Sampson and Warden Amanda Mumberket, the Kingston Health Centre's board chair went on to confirm that her organization is hoping for a $3,000 payment to be able to allow the facility to maintain its expenses for just the coming month. However, Juanita Mumberket suggested that the situation could become more dire in the months to come without immediate emergency funding.
I know $3,000 is the cost of the doctor, I guess, that's gone, or the rent, I guess, more or less you would cover. Is there anything else, is there anything else that's been in place for if the doctor cannot be replaced at any short time? Or is there anything else in the, in the broad future, if you can't find a doctor to replace them, to fill that void for the, financial?
We were without about $30,000 last year. So where did that money come from? That came from our fund that will maintain the building, that the community donated, that we have as a chunk of money to keep for the roof, or to, if whatever happens, the furnace blows up or something. That's that chunk of money. So we're steadily eating into that. So that's, and we're at the point where we're worried about taking on more grant work, because if the horrible side does happen, then we can't administer it. So we've actually kind of slowed down going after grant money, which is a shame
that's a concern
in the current environment, especially with the people who are ready to volunteer.
While councillors were all willing to consider emergency funding for the Kingston Health Centre, the seriousness of the situation emerged shortly after District 3 councillor Melanie Sampson stressed the need for due diligence on the municipality's part to make sure that $3,000 worth of emergency funding could be met within the framework for the upcoming municipal budget. That brought out a nervous reaction from the Kingston Health Centre's board chair.
I'm not sure that my board will be happy if I don't go after the $3,000 for this month. Is there any way we could change that to say, can you give us emergency funding for, March, and then do the deliberations and the discussions?
However, council officials clarified that they were voting to send the recommendation for emergency funding from this committee of the whole meeting to the next regular meeting of Richmond Municipal Council, coming up this coming Monday evening. At the same time, Council will also instruct staff to take a look at whether further funding for the Kingston Health Centre can fit within budgetary discussions that will take place within the coming days.
I would have no problem entertaining a motion to, if the emergency funding is to, we're only talking, and really, and I know I say only, but we're talking $3,000 to hold them over to a budget deliberation. So again, I'm sure that somewhere in our current budget, we can find $3,000. So I would have no problem making that motion to move forward with a.
Now, if you were listening carefully, you might have heard the Cape Breton South Recruiting for Health Committee being referenced a couple of times in that report. And that committee had a major breakthrough earlier this week when it welcomed a new doctor to Port Hawkesbury. He'll be starting a general practice there, and that's all part of a continuing campaign to bring new doctors to the Strait area. So we decided to welcome back the Healthcare Recruitment Navigator for the Cape Breton South Recruiting for Health Committee, Maggie MacDonald, to speak to her about this new arrival and what's coming next for her committee and for physician recruitment efforts in the Strait. Here's that interview with Maggie MacDonald right now. And we're very pleased to welcome back to Telile 24/7 the Healthcare Recruitment Navigator for the Cape Breton South Recruiting for Health Committee. She is Maggie MacDonald. She joins us from her home office in Port Hood. Maggie, thank you very much for coming back and joining us again today.
Hi, Adam. Yeah, thanks for having me.
No trouble at all. And it's been a busy time for you and your office and for your committee over the last couple of weeks. So let's begin with one of the big reasons that I did want to talk to you today is that your committee, Cape Breton South Recruiting for Health, has confirmed the arrival of a new physician. Dr. Becky Okeke is going to be joining the Island Gateway Medical Clinic here in Port Hawkesbury. Can you give us a little sense about how that all came together, what his background is, and just how he's going to fit into the local healthcare system?
So Dr. Okeke will be joining the rest of the healthcare team at the Island Gateway Clinic in Port Hawkesbury. And so he'll practice as a family doctor. So he has been a family physician. He graduated in the college or the University of Nigeria and has participated in the Nova Scotia Practice Ready Assessment Program to have his credentials moved to be able to practice here in Nova Scotia. So he'll set up his own practice as a family physician in Port Hawkesbury. He does have some interest in inpatient care in the future, possibly at the Strait Richmond Hospital. And I think he plans to shadow Dr. Collins a little bit in the long-term care facilities that Dr. Collins has overseen for many years now. So he begins actually his practice in Port Hawkesbury today, March 15th. And we can expect him to be another valuable asset to our healthcare team in this area.
Now, part of your job, obviously, is selling potential new physicians and new nurse practitioners and such on Port Hawkesbury and the Strait area as a region, not only as a place to be doing medical work, but also as a place where those who have families can bring their families. And we do understand that Dr. Okeke is married with young children. I just wonder, what do you think sold him on this area?
So Dr. Okeke was fortunate enough to tour the area last January before I came on. But while he was still in the Nova Scotia Practice Ready Assessment Program. So him and 5 other physicians got the opportunity to visit Port Hawkesbury and the Strait Richmond Hospital and participated in what I'm told was one of the best site visits ever in Nova Scotia Health. So that's good news. So when they were here, they were able to visit the town, see what we have to offer. They loved the waterfront. So they got a tour of the civic center, the school systems. They were able to see all the amenities Port Hawkesbury had to offer, all in close proximity to the clinics we have here and the hospital as well. So for Dr. Okeke, he does have a young family, 4 boys. Who are very much into sports, I'm told. So he was really impressed with the services and recreational opportunities in the town.
I want to ask you, Maggie, now, this is coming at a time where there's also been a departure in a GP from our local area. Dr. Stephen DeRoche leaving the Arishat Medical Clinic in late February. Is there anything you can tell me, even in terms of just the general feeling with your committee, knowing that you've been successful in bringing one physician in, but that another physician is leaving in the general area as well?
from a community point of view, I can't speak towards the direct impact this may have for some of Dr. DeRoche's patients he was seeing at the Ayrshire Medical Clinic. But it's great we have a new family physician in the area, and it's also great that we have a physician now doing full-time hospitalist care. But it creates that little bit of shift. So there is a gap, where there will be need. So I think the hope is that Dr. DeRoche's patients would have registered with the province's registration for those who need a family practice. And so when we do have somebody new in the area, like Dr. Okeki, some of them may be able to get onto that roster once he's accepting new patients. I can't confirm or anything like that, but it's the hope.
All right. Well, we'll certainly hope for the best as well, too.
Yeah.
How does your committee look at dealing with a sudden departure like this? And is this the sort of thing where you leave it to the Nova Scotia Health Authority, or you work directly with them? What happens, or what, in the terms of your position as healthcare recruitment navigator, happens when you do have a departure of a doctor? Does that ramp up the intensity for your office, or is it more of a collaborative approach with the health authority?
That's a great question. So it is a collaborative approach. So right now, Nova Scotia Health representatives would be in discussions with the folks at the Ayrshire Clinic to probably work on a future job posting for another family physician there. So I can't speak on, negotiations or anything like that.
Sure.
But I know us as a group, we've been in touch, and we keep very close communications with the physicians and the staff at the Ayrshire Clinic. So when this was announced that he would be transitioning to the hospital, Dr. DeRoche, they had reached out to us and let us know. So what that might look like from where I stand is a little bit of a ramp up in our efforts. So that may look like playing a stronger role. So Ayrshire Clinic is fortunate enough because both the Dr. McNeils are teaching physicians. So they do see a lot of residents and medical learners pass through their office. So from our community's point of view, that might look like us jumping in and helping host more physicians or more students, hosting retreats on weekends, just to have medical learners kind of pass through these communities and gain a better understanding of what we have to offer, hoping that one might be interested in staying in the area.
All right. We'll hope for the best in that regard. Another recent success that your Cape Breton South Recruiting for Health Committee has had in recent weeks has been the arrival of 2 locum doctors from Ontario, who we've seen everywhere from the individual clinics to pulling hours at the Strait Richmond Hospital in Evanston as well, too. And looking just a little farther afield down the road, they've been doing some work at St. Martha's Regional Hospital in Antigonish as well. Can you give me an update on what exactly is happening with those 2 locum doctors and how that situation turned out?
So we did have 2 locums come and do some shifts at the Strait Richmond Hospital, probably around Christmas time. While one has returned home, so he did a little tour of Guysborough and our area and down towards Bedeck, and really enjoyed his time here. He has gone home for some family matters, but does plan to return hopefully this spring to the area, just to do some more locuming. So while the second one is still residing in Antigonish, actually, with his family, and he's really enjoying himself doing these locum shifts between St. Martha's, Guysborough, and the Strait Richmond hospitals. So locums are a huge asset to the healthcare system because they provide coverage for time off for other physicians, and they can fill in the gaps where hospitals might be short, like in an emergency department. So we hope to see more locums come through this area as well in the future.
All right. We'll hope for the best in that regard, and good to hear of a return for one of those locums as well, too, a little later in the spring. Maggie, I was curious about what the next steps are for the Cape Breton South Recruiting for Health Committee, and that may seem like a purely academic question because your next step is to go and look for more doctors. But can you give us a sense of what the process is for you at this exact point in time? What are you and your office really concentrating on at this point?
Yeah, so like you said, Adam, we do plan to continue on what we're doing now. So supporting the healthcare professionals we have in the area as best we can, while continuing to showcase our region. So we do have a rural and remote conference coming up this spring. So it's an online conference for rural physicians. So they can be medical students and learners, residents, or already practicing physicians who all have an interest in rural medicine. So we will be attending that to showcase our region and all of the opportunities we have to offer here. A lot of our future work too, I see being done in community. So we will be getting into the classroom settings. So possibly the CCAs and LPNs or RNs at CEDAVX, and just presenting on what our committee does, why we came together, how we can support them, but more importantly, hearing their feedback. So what I'd like to see done is more surveys in the community, surveys put out to students in healthcare and practicing physicians to really dive in and see where the needs are and what can be done from a community side of things. So from being in this role for over 6 months now, I see kind of a trend. So from recruiting within your own communities. So it's known as growing your own, and it works. So it's just to say that students and professionals who grow up here and are familiar with the area and the rural living, I guess, are more likely to return and stay long term. So in the future, I think you'll see more initiatives targeted towards that.
Well, I am curious about one aspect of bringing medical professionals in, Maggie, whether they're homegrown or whether they're coming from outside the community, and that's the issue of housing. I know that you and your colleague Trevor Boudreau presented recently to Richmond Municipal Council's Committee of the Whole, and at that meeting, Warden Amanda Mumbercat asked you to specifically address the issue of housing for new physicians to this area. Can you speak to that for a moment and just tell us where the gaps are and why that's a concern for your committee?
Yeah, definitely. So I can say that housing is probably our number one challenge and a huge barrier, not only here, but all over Nova Scotia. So I meet with other navigators across the province, and we all have the exact same issues. So, and which is just, it comes down to the lack of housing options, and specifically for rentals. Um, so Airbnbs are very popular in this area and can be a wonderful option for short-term rentals, but only during those winter months. So, from June to September, that peak season, they're rented by the week or on weekends. So if we don't have long-term solutions for not only healthcare professionals, but for people in general moving back home or moving to a new place, we just can't retain them no matter the efforts. If they don't have a place to live, they can't stay. So something neat that another navigator kind of was part of in Yarmouth was she's employed by the Chamber of Commerce. So their Chamber of Commerce partnered with their local credit union and created a model. So they called it their Medical Learner Housing Project. So they were able to join together and figure out the wants of these medical learners, their need for housing, and they were able to build units very close to the hospital for medical learners. So it's just it's no stress. You're not looking for, okay, whose Airbnbs are available. I have 6 students coming, and now it's just a place for them to stay, and it's easy and it fixed the issue. So maybe in the future we'll be lucky enough to have something like this in this region.
We'll wrap up with a question that connects to the previous one in terms of your presentation to Richmond Municipal Council. And I know that you folks have been very active in working with the member municipalities of this region. Port Hawkesbury Town Council has worked closely with you as well. Can you talk about how important that is to have the municipal councils on board and to be working in tandem with them in terms of not only bringing potential doctors to our area, but also showing them around and really doing a selling job to make it clear that this could be a good fit for them?
Yeah, absolutely. So our group does have a strong presence of municipal counselors, sorry. So they join our meetings and they provide us with valuable feedback from a community point of view. And they're all interested in the overall success of our initiatives. So they're all strong community leaders, and we all want to see more healthcare workers be employed in this area. So their presence is extremely important on our committee. I can definitely say both Richmond County Council and the Town Council are huge support systems to my role. So whether we're doing, like you said, a site visit, they're the first ones to volunteer, and they know what's popular, they know their towns, and they know what's going to showcase them the best. So it's really important to have them be a part of this. All of the work they are doing within their own councils, aside from helping me in my role, whether it's housing projects or beautification efforts, economic development strategies, all of that is going to make Cape Breton South a more attractive place to live for everybody.
Well, we've covered a lot of ground in a short time, as I expected we would, Maggie, and I appreciate that very much. Did you want to add anything else about the process before we wrap up here?
I don't think so. You covered a lot of great questions. The only thing I will add is, since we kind of announced Dr. Okeke's arrival, I think everybody's had a lot of inquiries about getting family physicians. So I just want to say to the community about the importance of registering with the province for needing a family physician. Make sure you get your name on that list if you are in need of a family practice.
All right. Well, we know that yours is a busy job and a very important job for our area. We appreciate you taking some time to help talk about all of these issues with us. Thanks so much, Maggie, for joining us once again on Telile 24/7.
Thanks, Adam.
Maggie MacDonald is the Healthcare Recruitment Navigator for the Cape Breton South Recruiting for Health Committee. We've been speaking to her via Zoom from her office in Port Hood. Stay tuned for more Telile 24/7 in just a moment. And now let's return to our conversation with the Minister of Transportation and Active Transit for Nova Scotia, Lloyd Hines. He recently presided over the confirmation of the start of construction on a major piece of Highway 104 twinning in Antigonish and Pictou counties. So let's speak to Minister Hines about that right now and talk a bit about what it means for him to preside over this part of Highway 104's twinning process at this stage of his career.
I'm so pleased with that particular work. When I came into the department, the prognosis or the forecast for that work getting done was 2032. And we will have that complete by 2023. And we know that because we're into a public-private partnership contract with DNA, which is the acronym for the Dexter Nova Association, and they are well underway with that project now. And in that contract, there are fixed times. The delivery is all set down. They're obligated to be on time and on budget, unless we introduce some change that we might have overlooked in the design, which is not going to happen. So we're well underway there. I'm so proud of that project. I have to thank the federal government too for a significant contribution towards that project through the Transportation Trade Corridors Fund federally. They contributed $90 million from that fund to the project, which is a total budgetary commitment for the construction is around $364 million. So it's 38 kilometers of twinned highway, of which 12 kilometers is new 4-lane. So that's the section that bypasses Marshy Hope as we know it, which, as we know, is one of the most dangerous sections of highway we have in the province.
Yes.
And that will be undertaken by a new 4-lane section over the mountain and from essentially Barney's River to Pushy's Road. And it's approximately 12 kilometers. You won't see that construction because it's back out of the way.
Sure.
Which also is kind of an advantage for the construction company because they don't have to worry about flaggers and safety considerations when they're building that 12 kilometers. The other 12 kilometers is a real challenge, of course, too. There are 27 structures that are included in the project because we took the opportunity to not only build a new structure where we're twinning, so it's the same river or same highway we have to cross, but we're going back and retrofitting, replacing the old structures so that the entirety of the highway is new and of the same vintage. So going forward 30 years, the project will age in a uniform manner, and we won't be in there doing work to replace a bridge that we had another 5 years or 10 years into it.
Okay.
They're all coming out. 27 structures going in. It'll be brand new from start to finish. As I mentioned, the projected time is the fall of 23. As of today, the project is on time. As I said, the budget was pre-fixed, but the timing is always an issue in terms of slippage because of weather, etc. But they're doing very well. What I liked about this project is this is going to make highways safer for Nova Scotia sooner. So highways are going to be safer sooner with the P3 arrangement. We were extremely fortunate, I think, in having Dexter Nova provide the lowest bid available because they're a local Nova Scotia company and they employ local people all the time. And that shows the expertise that we have in Nova Scotia in the building trade sector, in the road building sector. And that means that the dollars will circulate in our province. So I'm very pleased that we are working with local companies up there, and they're doing a good job. They got off to a great start. We're in the throes of the winter still, but I think they'll come out of the blocks quickly as soon as the spring breaks. They're actually still working, and they have lots of plans about how they're going to focus on those structures and get them done quickly. And the rest of it, as they would say, is just moving dirt.
Can you speak to the sheer enormity of the project, Lloyd? And you've just given us a bit of a visual picture of what will happen in terms of Marshy Hope, that it'll actually be a complete highway bypass of the original road through Marshy Hope instead of expanding on that. This is arguably the most ambitious portion of this Sutherland's River to Antigonish County highway twinning. We've certainly seen a major jump forward in highway twinning through Antigonish over the last 5 to 7 years. Can you tell me a bit about the satisfaction you get as the minister to see this going through, especially after the long campaign by, for example, the volunteer fire department to be able to get this highway twinned and to ease up the bottleneck at one of Nova Scotia's deadliest pieces of highway?
Absolutely, and kudos to Joe MacDonald, the fire chief there, who fought this battle for a long time, and he's a tremendous supporter of safety. And twinned highways save lives. We have the evidence of the Cobequid Pass. We have the before and after statistics there, and the fatality rates in that particular instance dropped from I think 2.87 to 0.82, and you can do the math and talk about 20 years, and that's 40 plus people who are still on the planet because of the highway twinning. And it'll be the same thing as we get this particular section of the 104 done. Now, at the same time, we're also working simultaneously on the 101, the 103, and the 107, with significant sections of twinned highway going there. Actually, the 103, we actually got an 11-kilometer section of that open now, so I was very happy with that. Those are not P3 projects. We're doing them in-house. You mentioned Antigonish. Our expectation is that we will have this section of 104 completed within 3 years. It took 16 years to get the 15 kilometers of Antigonish done, and essentially the cost was around $10 million a kilometer. So we're much cheaper on going to P3 route, and we will be finished that much earlier, and that will save lives. I mean, that's the key thing. I think that's what Nova Scotians want. They want safe highways, and as we grow, we need to be able to provide that safe passage for people. So I'm really happy with that. I think it was a huge undertaking, and approaching it for 3 years, and we worked on it for 3 solid years. We looked at every aspect. We looked at going through Marshy Hope, but we were bottlenecked in there by the river and the railway. We were jammed. Now we could have actually relocated the railway at our cost for Cape Breton Eastern Railway, but we would have lost control of the schedule if we had to do that, because we would have had to build to their specification, and we still would have had to deal with the river there, which would have been tricky. So we labored for about 6 months over the decision to go over the mountain or to go through the existing section. And at the end of the day, we made the decision that the best idea was to create the 12 kilometers, a new 4-lane highway, for various factors, but mostly because of the tight corridor that we have there for the existing 104. That will now morph into the number 4, the old number 4, and that will be the alternative route. When we're doing twinning, we always have to have the alternative route available for any accidents or catastrophes that could happen on the twinned highway. So that will continue as the old highway number 4 in through Marshy Hope there. So there'll still be traffic on it, but it won't be the volume that we see there currently today.
I did notice that you looked into the future in terms of the Canso Causeway and the possibility of a flyover lane to connect to the 105. So I'll ask you this, has there been discussion to this point on continuing the twinning beyond the Antigonish area, the Antigonish Trackety, Bogdankek area, straight through to the Canso Causeway? Is that something that you and your colleagues in the department have been talking about at this point, even in the early stages?
Yes, it is. We have essentially the 4 pieces of twinning that were in my mandate letter are essentially in the can now. They're all out. Contracts are being awarded for the non-P3 stuff, and the P3 104 contract is done. So we can bring our head up now and start looking around for what we might consider to be the next priorities for highway twinning. That what you mentioned there is definitely one of the possible options in the process, and continuation of the 103 to Bridgewater, which is a big population center, is another possible option. But no decisions have been made for where we're going to be going here. We're not taking a breather. We're taking a look into the future. Now we have a new government, so we have to see what this new government priorities are as far as the highways are concerned. We have I've been blessed to be the minister during this period over the last 4 years. And in the last 2 years, we have struck the highest expenditures on highways in the province of Nova Scotia's history, with a combined over $1 billion spent on our highways in Nova Scotia. I never thought I'd see that. When I came into the department in 2017, the budget was $215 million. The one we just put in place is 492, and last year's was 522. So in that 2-year period, we're spending over $1 billion on highways for Nova Scotians. And, I believe that the highway system is so important for so many, many reasons. Economic reasons, economic development, obviously, moving goods between communities, from a tourism perspective, from the social life of Nova Scotians to be able to visit their friends and family. It is a baseline foundation piece for a successful society, I think, a good highway system. And we're committed to providing that.
All right. Just one last question to you, Lloyd, and this is kind of on the personal side. I mean, obviously, you are the Minister of Transportation for all of Nova Scotia, but of course, you have your roots in this part of Nova Scotia. You served as the warden of the district of Guysborough for many years. I know you also have family roots up in the Ingonish area. So I just wonder, having traveled through these particular highways, the Rotary and the 104 through Antigonish and Pictou County through the years, how does it feel to be able to preside over these long sought after upgrades to these particular sections of highway in the Rotary at this point?
Well, I have to tell you a little story, Adam, and you have roots in Ingonish too.
Yes, exactly.
So when I grew up, I remember getting my first bicycle. It was a J.C. Higgins bicycle, and I didn't know anything about bicycles, so I decided to go down Smoky on my J.C. Higgins with just regular brakes. So I got down a little bit, and all of a sudden I could smell the burning, and I had to take the ditch because I lost my brakes on the J.C. Higgins, brand new bike, ruined it. But that was Cape Smoky. And surprisingly enough, or as fate would have it, we just presided over the rebuild of Cape Smoky.
Yes, indeed.
We just rebuilt that mountain completely. I have to say, the construction company did a fabulous job. They were very daring because, the grades there are quite steep, but they were able to get it done. And we got Smoky improved and rebuilt. Just finished it in last fall, and there's some touch-up to be done now. So for me, that was an incredible completion of the circle. From Bourinot getting killed on my bicycle when I went down it, not knowing that I was going to burn my brakes out, to being the minister when we rebuilt it, that was quite a chuckle I got out of that myself. But we're building stuff all over Nova Scotia, from Yarmouth. We even did some gravel work in Meat Cove this last summer. That's our commitment. We did a nice piece of the Cabot Trail in Middle River. We're doing work really everywhere. We're putting in roundabouts where they are improving safety, and it's a great honor for me to be in this chair at this particular time.
Well, Lloyd, it's a pleasure to catch up with you again and to have you explaining some of these projects, which, as we say, have come a long ways toward fruition. We appreciate you taking some time for us on Telile 24/7 today. Thank you so much.
My pleasure, my friend. Thank you very much.
Lloyd Hines is the Minister of Transportation and Active Transit for Nova Scotia. We're speaking to him today via Zoom. And that wraps up this week's edition of Telile 24/7. Once again, I'd like to thank you for watching, and thanks to my guests this week, Maggie MacDonald and Lloyd Hines. And a big thank you to my Telile co-workers, Cora LeBlanc, Becky Bourinot, and Nick Boudreau, for their assistance on the footage from Richmond Municipal Council's Committee of the Whole meeting from last week. Don't forget, if you have any ideas for future editions of Telile 24/7, feel free to call or write me with them. You can call and write Telile with them as well. And be sure to follow Telile Community Television on social media. For now, I'm Adam Cook. It's been a pleasure to have you with me this week, and I look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks' time with a brand new edition of Telile 24/7. Talk to you then.